we'll begin. I'd like to start with just saying welcome, everyone. We are so excited that you are here at our monthly event. My name is Teresa Orton. I'm the director for this museum. And a little bit about the museum is it is for Washington County pioneer families. We have artifacts and photos and histories of all of those early settlers. We'd like to invite you afterwards to come and go through the museum and check things out. And it's nice and cool as the summer. That's always a big selling factor. It's very cool here and it's free, so that's always nice. First off, would you please put your phones on Do Not Disturb? This is my reminder to her myself, so I have to do that. The restroom is right outside by the door here, and if anyone needs it. So today we have a presentation about, we called it The History of Tea, and that was a very limited title because we couldn't fit everything on one line. Our presenter is Nancy Carlton. She is an active DUP member and has lived here for quite some time and is just involved in everything. I've known Dixie for quite a few years. I looked at Dixie and said that. I've known Nancy for quite a few years, and we golf together. She bowls. She's just a busy person. But today, she is going to talk about one of her life's passions. And she's going to tell you more about what she's talking about and herself. So I'm going to turn it over to Nancy Carlton.
Good morning. I'm really happy to be here. I'm happy to have had the opportunity to do some extra research to present this. Again, she says, I'm Nancy Carlton, and I'm a Utah native. I was born and raised in Ogden, 30 miles north of Salt Lake. And then in 2012, I remarried, and Bruce Carlton, who's sitting in the back, my biggest supporter, and we moved down here. And so I've been here for about 13 years, and I love it here. I love it here. I also love tea parties. I've loved everything that's tea and tea parties for many years. For 40 years, I've been giving tea parties to all ages of ladies. And I've just learned more and more and done more fun things. But my new love is this DUP museum and Utah history. I've loved Utah history, but this DUP museum has taught me so much, plus being a member of the Daughters of the Utah Pioneers. So I've done a lot of research. I've got a lot of material to share with you. We've ordered pizza for noon. Is that okay? No, just kidding. So let's start out with what it says up here, the pioneer beverages. We're going to talk about that, tea history and medicinal value, and bone china, including serving things and traditions. So, okay. So back in the colonial times, we learned from this book. This is our DUP lesson book, and we read it cover to cover in 9 months, and it's amazing. And so one of our lessons this year happens to be pioneer beverages. But they took this lesson, and they went clear back to colonial times and talked about what people drank. Well, we obviously think, well, they probably drank milk and water. Well, milk and water were the most dangerous things they could drink. There was no science then about bacteria and about what these things do. And so much was written about, pioneer food and what they ate, but very little about what they drank. So we know that water and milk carry diseases and bacteria and that can even cause death. And settlers in the rural areas actually had a better chance of being okay because they could dig a well, and that was clean water. What we think, it's in our minds of these beautiful streams and beautiful lakes. Well, when the cities were planted, then they began to put waste in those lakes and streams, and so it made it so it wasn't near as good to drink, of course. So milk spoiled quickly, and oftentimes the cows were not healthy, and so the milk wasn't healthy. Therefore, they drank fermented, brewed, or boiled liquids. It was a means of survival. Beer, ale, cider, wine, coffee, and even for the children, there was one called a small beer. It was not as strong. So that's how they survived. And in this book, we had many recipes for how to make all of these things. We could learn how to make any kind of hard cider, whiskey, beer, anything you could imagine. And we even found out how many breweries were in the state of Utah when it first began. But then they did do a lot of non-alcoholic beverages. They used apples and apricots, barley, lemons, made aids or drinks like that. They even used chocolate and oil of sassafras and tea. So now we're going to talk about tea. So we're going to talk about the history of tea. Tea came, the first record of it, from China. And the earliest record they have is 2737 BC. That's a long time ago. So thousands of years they've been using the tea. The first records actually showed that the Chinese probably chewed on the leaves as opposed to boiling them, until one time, this is maybe a legend, hard to know, that there was an emperor and he was sitting with his hot water, boiled water. He had told all of his subjects to boil their water because it wasn't safe. And so he had this boiled water, and some tea leaves blew in and landed in his cup and sat there a few minutes. Probably he was chatting or doing whatever he was supposed to be doing. And then he drank it, and he liked it, and he thought it tasted good. And then he found out it even made him feel better. So there it went. Tea began. Tea, brewed tea. So all of the tea comes from one plant called Camellia sinensis. And that's the main plant that they all come from. It was spread, once they found it, Southwest Asia, Tibet, North Myanmar, and Northeast India. So tea was really laboriously harvested. It took a lot. And a lot of the plantations that grew it were up in the hilly countries. So it took a lot to harvest it and a lot of manpower. So that made it, more worth more. There was another legend about the monkeys. There was an area that had all of these monkeys, and they were in the trees. Now, the leaves are mostly a bush or a tree, but the monkeys were all there. So they made the monkeys mad. The monkeys grabbed the leaves and started throwing them down. Sounds good to me. Get free monkey work. Okay, so then they started to import some of this to the Western world. The very first ones came from the Portuguese priests and merchants. And that was in the 16th century. Then in 1602, the Dutch trading company, which was famous for going to Asia and bringing products back, went to Amsterdam. So they started it in Amsterdam. Then the East Trading Company, in 1657, started bringing it to the United Kingdom. So there's three types of tea. One is black, and that means that it's dark color. It will be dark in color. It's dried and fermented. Okay, the leaves are. Then the green tea is steamed after harvest, so it's not fermented. And then oolong is somewhere in between, so it's a light color brown, where the green is often clear. So at the end of the 17th century, it was promoted as a medicinal tonic. And that's when they started getting good money for it. It was priced very high, and it usually was only purchased by the wealthy. They're the only ones. So then in 1720, black overtook green, and that made it a little cheaper because it was fermented and it didn't spoil, and they could just bring it in. And it was first transported in bricks, big bricks, and then it was transported loosely. So much smuggling occurred, transporting to save the taxes, avoid taxes. Then they began adding milk and sugar to it to mask the bitterness, and that happened between 1685 and 1800. And then something happened in Ceylon, because they did drink some coffee. Ceylon was the main coffee producer, and they had a 95% loss of crop because of a fungus. So, bingo, tea popularity came. Oh, whoops. Okay, here's a list of teas and their medicinal values. That's a big list. And I just expect you to memorize the first page, not the second page, okay? So we can see what some of these medicinal values are. Ashwagandha is actually a product that I have in a tea that's sitting over there that helps you with stress and sleep and anxiety. I should have drank that this morning. Chamomile is calming. I'm not going to read all of these. Ginger is nausea, helps your blood sugar. Peppermint, we all like peppermint, so it's good for digestion and bad breath and stress. Lemongrass will calm your anxiety. So you can see now rooibos is from South Africa, and it tastes really good. I can tell you that. And here's a few more. There's one, St. John's wort. That's the one that's good for depression. And there's thyme, that's an easy thing to have. It's for nervousness, respiratory, cardiovascular. It's interesting how they cover a wide range of the body parts, isn't it? Then there's turmeric or turmeric, whichever way you say it. Valerian is insomnia. And then there's white Mormon tea. Okay, my mother was from the South, and she was not a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. She came here, married my dad, and came here from during the war. And she did not join the church, and she drank tea and coffee. And so when the kids wanted to have, especially me, because I had to have a tea party, she would make Mormon tea, and she would make hot water, canned milk, and Karo syrup. And it tasted good to me. She's giving me a face like, oh, that sounds nasty. It wasn't. Okay. So there is one of the tea pictures. Orange pico has nothing to do with the orange fruit, okay? Orange pico is all about grating the leaves, okay? So that's how they do that. This is chamomile, the chamomile plant. It's very pretty. So, yeah. And if you notice, it's spelled two different ways. Okay, this is St. John's wort. Okay, pretty plant. Okay, so now we're going to go to when they were bringing tea to the United Kingdom. A lot of our pioneers came from the United Kingdom, and so we're going to center a bit on that just because they have lots of fun traditions. So it was known as, I think that would just say cha, China, drina, or drina, and just tree or tray. That's what the other names that they would call it. So when you hear somebody say, you're going to have a pot of tea, you're going to have a spot of tea, you're going to have so that's what that was like. So then we came down to they had afternoon or high tea traditions. So why did they have high tea traditions? So in England, particularly the wealthy, they had an early breakfast, and then they had lunch at noon, and then they didn't have dinner until 8 o'clock at night. So they needed sustenance to get them through. So who started this? It was Lady Anne, the Duchess of Bedford, in 1842, is credited for starting this tradition. She asked for a tray of bread, butter, tea, and cake in mid-afternoon between 4 and 5. Then she began asking her friends to join her. So now it became a party. So then in the 1880s, it became a truly social event. So it became very popular to get an invitation. It was highly sought out invitations. And then you went to someone's house, and you dressed like this, and you wore your white gloves, white lace gloves, and you had a little purse, and you sat for tea. So at the back, I have a tea party set up. And so we know that in the lower class, they didn't do this, but they still had their teas. And they would brew a pot of tea, and I'm going to tell you how to brew a pot of tea. And Mom would be the pour. She would pour. Mom would pour. But if you're in a room where there was no mom, somebody would say, I'll be Mom. And they would pour. So that was important. Who got to pour? So the hostess usually poured, and she began to use bone china, porcelain, earthenware, and silver silver tea services, which is what I have set up in the back. Okay, let's see what we got. All right, now we're going to talk about that china and things. Oh, I didn't tell. Well, let's see. Am I going to tell you? When do I have to tell you what they served, and we'll do that. Okay. So, bone china, porcelain, earthenware came from one specific area, mostly in England, and that was Staffordshire. That's like a county. It's an area, and it's right almost dead center, just below, just above Birmingham and below Liverpool, where a lot of our people came from. Then, the main city was Stoke-on-Trent. Try writing that several times. Stoke-on-Trent, that was your city. And they made the tea from bone ash, that's why it's called bone china. Kaolin, which is decomposed granite. That had to take a while. And they had china clay or china stone. So all of those products were in this area. And they were well used. So bone china is fired to 1,000 degrees centigrade or 1,832 degrees Fahrenheit. That's how hot it has to get. Bone china has to have 30% bone ash, in order to be able to claim that it's fine bone china. But just fine china does not have to have that percentage. So here's some companies who made china. That's a good list. Anybody recognize any of those? So, see how old most of those companies are? Now, as it went along, then a lot of them would combine each other, but that's a pretty good list. And if you can see up here, I know this is a little busy. In an ideal world, I would have gotten 2 of these. You can see some of these pictures of these chinas, and they're magnificent. These came from the calendar you see sitting over here. I have about 20 years worth of this calendar. And so I took them apart and I said, what else am I going to use them for, right? So I wanted you to kind of get an idea of all the different kinds of china and what they look like. Each one is unique in its own way. I had to pull this one out, though. This is my favorite. This is Carlton ware. Somehow we didn't get in on the patent on that, but this is way later than these, and they're kind of whimsical, so I had to pull it out. So what I've done is shown you some of their ages. This one you don't have to memorize; it's okay. And I've tried to pull from my collection as many of these different companies as I could. So this is my collection, and somebody once asked me how many I had. Teacups and things, and I said, too many and not enough. Does that work? That's for his, no numbers for him. That's for my husband's. So I collect them. I get a lot of them out of Canada. I have a lady there that I really wanted her to come and give this presentation. It's called the Teacup Attic, and she's a appraiser, and she sells and puts out different kinds of china so that you can buy. This is one of my latest collections. This is provincial flowers, and this comes from Canada, and each province has its own flower. And so there's 10, and I now have 9. And this is called a trio. This is your little dessert plate or salad plate, sandwich plate, okay? So they call that a trio, so I have a few of those. Anyway, so you can come up later and look at those. So here's some pictures, bigger pictures of some of these companies. Ainsley is really high rent, and it's beautiful, and they do a lot of fruit.
Is that a serving platter?
That's a platter, yeah. And this one is, so then we talk about the back stamps. How do you know what you've got? And there's back stamps or marks, trademarks. And this is what Ainsley's looks like. So that's Coalport. That's one of my favorites up here. They're all my favorites, but we had to do this one. It's a lavatory. How many of you have this in your bathroom? Okay. Just thought I'd ask. So this is blue willow, and it's very famous. It looks oriental, and it's made to look oriental, but it's fine bone china. And this one, and I was going to go into it, but I didn't. This tells what each thing in the picture represents. It's all got representation there. Okay, this is transferware. That's where they printed it, and then they put it on the porcelain, and then they fire it. So, very interesting. Okay, there's another blue willow set. I thought that was pretty. This is chintz, and most of you ladies, where's the chintz? The chintz is here. Know what chintz fabric is, and it's made out of, it makes tight flowers, little flowers. This one is a music box. It's hard to hear.
But it's a cup.
It's a cup, a usable cup, hand wash. Yes, I have used it. So that's chintz. That's fun. That was a gift to me. Somebody gave that to me. A lot of mine are gifts. All right, who's next? Okay, this is Royal Crown Derby. It was, so now the reason I put this one up, for one, besides how pretty it is, it's not the best picture. Where's my here's Royal Crown Derby. But you can see they like these bright colors. When it says that it's Royal Crown, it started out as Derby. Now it's Royal Crown Derby because whoever was in power at that time ordered from them, and so that made it their pattern or their company. Now it's Royal Crown Derby. Now I want you to see that some of them have lots of marks, and you learn these marks in order to find out when they were made and where they were made. A lot of them will have little signatures on them or a little dash that tells who was painting it or who was firing it, who took care of it, because back in those days, the people that worked there got paid by the piece, how many pieces they did a day. So that was that. That's what that is. How many of you know what humbles are? Oh, good. Do you know that the back stamps on the humbles tell you everything you need to know? And they go back to the 1930s, but they changed every few years. And so in order to know if you're getting a true older Hummel, you have to know the back stamps. Bruce is the one that started me collecting Hummels. He had a collection. His mother had a collection. So we've been collecting Hummels, and we've tried to, we don't memorize it, but we've tried to learn all of those back stamps, and that helps you. So this is Wedgwood. Josiah Wedgwood was way early. He's in the 1700s. He started making this china. This is more like earthenware, and it's opaque as opposed to translucent. Do you know what I'm saying when I say translucent? I see a few heads nodding. Yeah, I love Wedgwood. So translucent, you can, let's see, this Shelley will be translucent. You can pick your fingers up and see the shadow through there. That's translucent. Where this is opaque. So he was very famous, and he did several kinds of ware. This is jasper ware that he made. That's also his. And it's beautiful, and it's raised. The word I want, yes?
So do you own all these pieces?
No. These are, thank goodness for Wikipedia. No, I just got these pictures to show you. I have some pieces, but this is Spode, another very famous one, and they liked bright colors. That's been around for many, many, many years. And see, Spode has several marks on it, too. Okay, so this probably could have come a little earlier. This is a locked tea chest. And when it would be delivered to the English people, the wealthy, and they would take it to their household where they had servants and stuff, they would lock it in a box. That's how valuable it was. And look how pretty that box is. I mean, who wouldn't just steal the whole box? It's so pretty. But it was locked in the box, and the lady of the house would have the key. So this is a tea caddy. That's where they stored it. It's kind of like a canister. And we have a tea caddy that came across the plains. It's a little more worn than the other one, but look at that. That's a tea caddy. Philip Googler. That's who it's a test of.
So is that metal?
Mm-hmm. I would say tin, yeah. And we do, all of these pieces are the ones that came out of the museum, and we'll talk about those. So I didn't tell you that when we were dressed to the nines, that this dress is an 1880s day dress. She would wear to tea. Look at her lovely hat. And this we attribute to Dixie Miller, who made this. And she wore it. Yeah. That's gorgeous, isn't it? Just gorgeous. Okay. So we also have some other pieces in our museum. We have some blue flow that was made in the United States, actually, blue willow and wedgwood. And those were pieces that were way too delicate to bring down, but we want you to see our museum. So they're in room 5. So then they're platters, okay? Okay, so I also used reference books. You can see over there, I get a magazine that's called Tea Time. That's where I get recipes mostly, and then they have and I have the book on cups and saucers, and again the calendars. So what did they serve? They served on 3-tier platters. I have 3-tier platters in the back. The first layer was savories, and that was sandwiches. Little open-faced cucumber, butter with radishes on it. I mean, it's unlimited to what they made, whatever they had available. So that was your savories. And the second level was breads. So that's where they would have their scones and their muffins and their little breads. I made you today British scones. British scones are not fried, and they're not this big, okay? Those are Utah Navajo scones, or whatever they want to call them. British scones are a little tiny biscuit they could be the size of a regular, but little biscuits. And they are not sweet. And they just are a little piece of bread. And so today you have lemon poppy seed muffins to try, or scones, and you have banana nut muffins, okay? So the second one was the breads, and then the top was where you'd put your cakes and your sweets. So there's some little candy. So when you leave here today, please help yourself to a snack. All right. All right, so let's go back to Utah, okay? Our museum has artifacts between 1860 and 1900, right? Yeah. So each month, the people in the museum, there's a committee of us. I'm one, Dixie's one. We've got all of us here. We have all of us here. And Ruth. Yeah, we're all here. We choose an artifact out of the museum to center on for all the DUP camps. So it's passed around, it's sent out, and they talk about it. And that gives them more knowledge if they happen to become a docent of what's in the museum. So today we have a tea strainer. So this little tea strainer, it's a William Rogers. Can you see that? And it's like a spoon, and it will open up, and you put your tea leaves in here. Okay, you do that because you don't want the tea leaves in the water you're going to eat. So you put your tea leaves in there, and you set it in and you pour the hot water over it. Okay, and then you stir it or steep it for as strong as you want, and then you usually don't have sediment in. So this is what they used was for loose tea. But nowadays, tea strainers come in all sizes and shapes. So this is one I actually use. And it has a chain with a little hook, so it hooks onto so you don't have to fish in the water. Okay, so now they're made in all shapes. Look, I have a Christmas tree. I have dogs, so we have to have the dog bone. This one looks like a little teapot. Isn't that cute? Okay, or there's this kind, where you just set it on top of the cup and pour it over. And set it on top of the cup, pour it in, and then it has this little base that takes the sediment. So that's what a tea infuser, we mostly call them infuser, or strainer is. And this is our one of this month's. So then over here, let's see. Oh, I'm going to pass this around. So this is something I came across that I thought was pretty special. This is a little thing that looks like a little lace doily. It's sugar. And you put that in your teacup. So that's a more modern thing. All right, so people didn't get to bring good things very often here. And especially early on, very few things survived the trip across the plains. And not only was it a jostling thing that China wouldn't survive, but it was space that was needed for more important things like shoes or, a pair of underwear or something. So, let's see, I think I told you all that. Okay, finally, everybody's going to ask me, have you had Brigham's tea? How many of you heard of Brigham's tea? Yeah. Okay, Brigham's tea is the ephedra plant. There are several species of ephedra plants. This one's not like cocaine, all right? So it was a popular beverage among the pioneers, a drink called Brigham or Mormon tea, made from the ephedra shrub. Various species of the plant are found in dry areas in the western region and western desert and southern Utah. Brewing the ephedra plant's ridges branches produces a tonic that was consumed for a variety of purposes. Brigham tea was good for okay, pay attention. This is gonna cure you of everything. Indigestion, purifying the blood, reducing a fever, relieving congestion, bringing out a rash, curing and prevention of bladder and urinary tract infections, relieving arthritic pain, or promoting circulation. Sadly, it caused terrible breath, very bad breath. That's the one bad side effect of drinking Brigham tea. Stanley Welch, an authority, now I'm quoting some from here, and I'm going to quote from one other book here just a second. Welch, an authority on native Utah plants, stated, "It tastes very much like you boiled up an old sock. But if you put enough cream and sugar of it, it was acceptable. It was then splendid." Okay? So from this book, this is from our friend Doug Alder, who was the former president of Dixie State, who has since passed. But he wrote this book, and in his book he's got Dr. Wesley Larson, who dealt with pioneer health, talks about Pretty Meeks, an herbal doctor who moved to Parowan in 1851. He talks about Brigham or Mormon tea or ephedra, a plant made into tea often called mountain rush. So that might be another name that people know went by. Pioneers have originally learned about the medicinal properties of the plants from the Indians. It is used to regenerate languid patients. Fix me a cup right now. I'm going to be languid. Okay, so that's the ephedra, and that's the story of Brigham tea. And if you go to the Arboretum, or you walk down into the gully in Santa Clara, where they have all the native plants marked, you will find a bush of Brigham's tea. It's very interesting. Okay, so how do you brew a cup of tea? This is how you brew a cup of tea, or a pot of tea. First, the kettle. Now, I was going to bring my kettle, but then I'd had to scrub it up, and it's just, The kettle is boiled with fresh water. So you boil it in a kettle, which is usually metal. Enough boiling water is swirled around the teapot to warm it. So you warm the teapot before you pour the boiling water in. Tea leaves, loose or infusers, are added to the teapot. Then fresh boiling water is poured over the tea leaves, infuser, bags. We didn't talk about bags, we will. And allowed to brew for 2 to 5 minutes. The brewed tea is poured into the cup through a tea strainer placed over the top of the cup if loose tea is being used. Infusers or tea bags may be removed once the strength is attained. A tea cozy. This is a tea cozy. What's it for? keep the pot warm. So I brought you a tea cozy. Dixie's going to take it home because her kitchen's all lemons, she said. So if you see her walking out with it, that's yeah, check her before she goes. So that's a tea cozy. So then they put the tea cozy on to keep it warm, and then they added sugar and milk in that order. And usually a guest may put the milk and sugar in their own teacups. The pot will normally hold enough tea so that some remains after filling the cups of all the guests. That could be a challenge. What I have found, and I own a couple of Bavarian, German or Czech Republic, that area of teapots, they are 2 or 3 times this size. And so are the cups. They were big drinkers over there, I guess. But they're much bigger. So they would have plenty of room for enough people. So if this is the case, the tea cozy is replaced after everyone has been served. And then hot water may be provided extra for topping off the pot. So I brought extra of those if anybody wants one of those. So next we're going to just have a little fun. What time is it? Okay. This is Nancy's tea quiz. So you can share. You can be see how many of these I got. You can be a team. Work together. I'm going to have you work with this team. Give you one for these ladies and one back there. Okay. All right. Let's see if how we can do this. What did I do? Give mine away? Hang on. Okay. Who is the most responsible for getting us drinking tea? No? Who said that? China. Okay, first one that gets the right answer gets a little lace thing to take home. I want you to not think I went out and spent a lot of money. These were a dime somewhere. I think I bought them from Wimple Street. Any of you heard of Wimple Street? No, they're closed, sadly. Yeah, they're gone. But probably Turkish people probably drink the most tea. And then Ireland and Britain, English, Iran, and then Russia in that order. How many times a year, and I didn't tell you this, so this is going to be a guess. How many times a year can tea leaves be picked? 2 to 200. Spring, summer, and autumn. They get winter off. So it depends on how the plant grows, but you can get different ones. Okay, you should get this one. Orange pekoe is the most popular morning tea. What significance does the word orange have? Who said that? You did. It's the grating. It's named for a Dutch prince from the House of Orange, because he started it. So, and it determines the grade or size of the leaf. Okay, who started taking afternoon tea? Okay, where? Who said? Okay, Great Britain was the answer. And Lady Bedford was the other one. So you each get one. Hope we don't run out of these. We probably will. Okay, one of you said Lady Anne. You said Great Britain. Okay. Okay. British Lady Anne from Bedford was hungry, waiting for supper, and after lunch was just at noon. Okay, we didn't talk about these two, so you're going to just get to guess. There's a million different other kinds of names of teas, and some of them are very exciting. What kind of tea is gunpowder or dragonwell?
Green must be black.
Who said that back there? Green. Do you already have a little one?
I know gunpowder green.
Yeah.
I just know that.
Somebody, who else said green? Okay, we'll get this one because she already has one. Okay. So green tea. So green tea is the one that most people use for medicinal, because it's especially stomach. Okay, what tea cleanses the palate or calms you? There's several. Lavender's one. Chamomile's one. Yeah, chamomile we said. So I have peppermint, or spearmint, lemon balm, lavender, and then some green teas. Okay, let's see. You said one first. What'd you?
Oh, I think I said chamomile.
Okay.
For number 7. I already got one.
Oh, all right. Who else said lemon? Who else said? Oh, right here. One of you guys said one of them?
Not me. I said one.
Okay. I got to listen better, don't I? Okay. Okay, so what kind of tea is made from daisy-like flowers, not leaves, and is medicinal? Chamomile. You all got that one. Okay. What tea is good for a queasy stomach? Ginger. You've got one. You've got one. Anybody else say ginger back there? Ginger's the... Oh, did she say it? Ginger. One of you said it. Oh, you? Okay. Okay. St. John's wort treats what ailment? Depression. This one's for you. Okay. So what kaolin, white clay from Europe, makes what? Not bone china. It was the fine china, yeah, porcelain or pottery. So, okay, so the last thing I wanted to make sure you understood was the things that we have here from the museum. You can come up and look at this. I have all kinds of teas. This is a cream and sugar that came with Elizabeth Ashley. Is it Ashby Snow. I knew I wasn't saying that right. Who was Erastus Snow's third wife. Erastus Snow's first wife, ancestors right here. You're the ancestor, she's not. Oh. And so this is absolutely beautiful. It does not have a mark. At one point, they didn't mark back stamp things. And these were things that were brought into the United States, probably not this one. This one probably came from England. But then they wanted a record of what they were, so then they started back stamping. So that's cream and sugar. And she's known for being the hostess of the area. She lived in the big house, and she was the hostess of all of the dignitaries that came. Okay, this is a fun one. We all probably have seen this. It's a mustache cup. No explanation needed? None of you need to use it? This pot was brought by Mary Ann Hale riding, giving to her in 1847. What a miracle that came, isn't it? That would be a little individual teapot. Then this one, this cup right here, Julia Ann Mitchell brought it to Utah. It came from Joseph Smith's home. He drank tea from it before the word of wisdom was given. So this was Joseph Smith's household. Okay, and then we already talked about that. So I have teas here, every kind you can think, and you can get, this is loose, when they're packaged like this, or this is loose leaf. My favorite is Rooibos chocolate mist. Yeah, that's good for when you're not feeling. So this one's called Nutcracker, and this one's Santa's Milk and Cookies. I get those from Canada. This one is another of my favorites, decaffeinated chai. Chai tea is one of my favorites. Here's the one that has the ashwagandha in it. It's for stress. Again, I should have had that today. But you can get any kind of tea nowadays pretty much that's decaffeinated or it's herbal, and that can be drank. So, and of course, they now drink a lot of iced tea. So that concludes my presentation. I have one thing to share with you just to conclude. I'll leave you with this poem. If you are cold, tea will warm you. If you are too heated, it will cool you. If you are depressed, it will cheer you. If you are exhausted, it will calm you. And that's by William Gladstone. Thank you for allowing me to share my passions with you today. Please enjoy a snack.
So we'd like to thank Nancy for this fabulous, fabulous tea party. And we are giving her
Oh,
a set of
awesome.
gloves as
Aren't
a
those
thank
beautiful?
you.
Oh,
Yeah.
those are wonderful. Love that. Thank you so much.
Yes.
That's
So
a good voice.
hopefully before you leave, you will take advantage of the treats in the back.
If you have any
This is-
questions, I probably can't answer.
Yeah.
But
And then take a few moments and go up through the museum and check out what we've got, some of our other china pieces and items that we have. I have to say, Nancy very kindly invited a few of us to her home because she wanted to put on a tea party. And so we came and we had a wonderful time. We learned a lot. And then there was a quiz. And I said, I've never been to a tea party where I was going to be challenged to remember all of this stuff. But she taught us a lot about tea and the traditions, and she could go on and on for days and days and days. And her knowledge just seems like endless. I'm always learning new things from her. So anyway, thank you very much for coming, and thank you to Nancy.
Did you count how many?
yes.
Yeah, we have 35.
What are some other uses for tea?
Oh, skin. You should know dyeing fabric. Dyeing fabric. Dyeing fabric to put it on your skin. In fact, I keep a used tea bag, and when you get an abrasion or get something, if you put that used tea bag on your skin. Anybody else know any others? Yeah. Oh, yeah, they used to put tea bags on your. We never did talk about tea bags. Tea bags didn't come around till 1920. Before we were using, they were, and we know that the Littons and the Twinings, those are famous tea companies. They're the ones that developed the tea bags, and boy, aren't we glad, because they're nice. Yeah. I do tea parties for friends and groups. Do I hire out? Not as a business, oh no. Yeah, you can never make a dime off of it. You might make a dime, yeah.
Did you think of it as fundraising? Because actually, I know one of the museums, little Hinsdale Museum in Colorado, every year, with City, Colorado, they actually have a women's tea party, and it's a fundraising event for the museum.
And lots of times each lady will decorate a table. I have done, I've done that. It's something we could think of, I guess. I love to do tea parties for little girls, mostly. 5 to 6, and they always get something to dress up in if they don't have something, and teach them all kinds of stuff, and they're so cute. I guess if we need to make money here, Teresa, we could do a tea party. Anybody else? Okay. All right. Thanks again for coming. Did anybody not get one of these that really wanted one? Okay. Okay. Good. That's fun, huh? Oh yeah, that's translucent. Yeah, they did. Sometimes they put faces down in the middle of them so that you could see the face when you drink after you drink it. Yeah. See, this is one of my favorites. I should have told you about this cup. So this is a 2-handled cup. Isn't that interesting? They did do tea ceremonies, and I think that one handle did one thing, one something else. But I saw this in an antique store in Hurricane, and I didn't buy it.
Are you at the
and I was
Dorset
so
today,
mad
did
at
you say?
myself.
No.
And I kept thinking and thinking. You leave the store, you can't quit thinking, and you go back and get it. Went back, they couldn't find it. They couldn't find it.
There was a man in a
My
wheelchair.
husband bought it,
and a
went back,
lady.
bought it for me for Christmas. See what I said? He's the best.